Alright, so today let me show you 15 perfect linear games everyone must play. These aren't just any games. These are experiences that will grip you from start to finish with their tight storytelling and incredible gameplay. Now, if you love getting lost in a powerful narrative where every step counts, this list is tailor-made for you. And along the way, I'll share some of my own personal experiences with these titles to let you know why they stand out so much for me. Let's start with a game that completely redefined its own franchise, God of War 2018. I still remember the first time I swung the Leviathan axe and it just felt so satisfying. But what truly hooked me was the relationship between Kratos and his son Atreus. Kratos, who we once knew as a rage-filled god-slayer, shows a side of vulnerability as a father. Watching their bond develop over the course of the game was so impactful, it made me rethink Kratos as a character. This game isn't just about epic combat, though trust me, the combat is phenomenal. It's about redemption, fatherhood, and dealing with past mistakes. It's an emotional roller coaster, and the journey through the Norse world is just jaw-droppingly beautiful. I've always been a huge fan of the Resident Evil series, and when I heard about the remake of Resident Evil 4, I couldn't wait. The original was a classic, but the remake took everything to the next level. When I first stepped into that creepy village, it felt like a trip down memory lane, but with way more tension. The visuals are stunning, the gameplay is more fluid, and the horror elements feel even more intense. Leon's mission to rescue the president's daughter has all the adrenaline-pumping action you'd expect. But the standout for me was how they managed to keep the game so tightly focused. Every section builds perfectly on the last, keeping you hooked until the very end.
No sabes con quién te metes. ¿Qué coño?
I've always been a sucker for adventure games, and Rise of the Tomb Raider hit all the right notes for me. Lara's journey to uncover ancient secrets in Siberia was gripping from start to finish. What I loved most were the moments where Lara had to solve intricate puzzles in the tombs. Those were some of the best parts. I remember spending way too long figuring out a particularly tricky tomb only to be rewarded with a sense of accomplishment that few games offer. The game's linear progression kept me focused on Lara's story. And while there are open-world elements, the narrative always felt like it was leading me somewhere epic.
Where'd this come from?
I grew up playing the original Final Fantasy VII, so when the remake dropped, I was cautiously optimistic. But man, did it deliver. The moment I saw Cloud step off the train in Midgar, I was hit with a wave of nostalgia, but what followed was even better. The real-time combat system is a brilliant twist on the original, keeping things fresh while retaining the classic feel. The remake also dives much deeper into the characters' stories, especially with Aerith and Tifa, making the emotional beats hit even harder. The game is a perfect blend of new and old, and the linear progression ensures that the story stays at the forefront. Every chapter felt like an episode of an epic series.
And there's our first challenger. Show me what you got, Cloud. Too late.
See ya.
Wow, so that's what a soldier looks like in action.
I love stealth games, and Dishonored 2 is a stealth masterclass. Whether I was playing as Emily or Corvo, the game always made me feel powerful yet vulnerable. The supernatural abilities allowed me to be creative in how I approached each mission, and the level design is genius. I remember one level in particular, the Clockwork Mansion, where the environment itself was constantly shifting. That level alone is worth playing the game for. While you can approach each mission in multiple ways, the story keeps you on a clear linear path, which helps keep the pacing tight. If you're a fan of stealth action games, this one's a must.
I can smell the stench of the void. There's something cooking.
Move along. We're conducting a search for heretical...
What was that?
You're not...
I wasn't prepared for how Hellblade Senua's sacrifice would affect me. This game is a deeply personal and emotional experience. Senua's journey through her own psychosis is portrayed in such a unique and terrifying way that it feels like you're walking through her nightmares. The binaural audio made me feel like I was right there with her, hearing voices whisper in my ear. It's an intense experience, but one that's absolutely worth it. The linear story kept me completely focused on Senua's quest, and the combination of beautiful visuals and gut-wrenching moments made this game unforgettable.
He's down. Finish it. Finish it. Strike it.
Few games nail atmosphere like A Plague Tale: Innocence. From the first moment you are introduced to Amicia and her brother Hugo, you feel this overwhelming sense of dread. The plague-ridden world is grim and terrifying, and the swarms of rats are both a unique gameplay challenge and a visual spectacle. I remember the tense feeling of trying to sneak past soldiers while also keeping an eye on the rats lurking in the shadows. What really struck me about this game was the relationship between Amicia and Hugo. Their bond grows throughout the story, and it made me genuinely care about their survival. This is a linear adventure that pulls you in and never lets go.
You need to push. Let me help. Mind you don't get burned. We're making too much noise. They're going to spot us. Help me push. All right.
Detroit Become Human is one of those games that makes you question your own morality. Each choice feels monumental, and by the end I was second-guessing every decision I'd made. The game does an incredible job of creating tension, especially with Connor's investigations. Every interaction felt like it could go horribly wrong at any moment. The game is very much linear in its progression, but with multiple branching storylines, each playthrough can feel drastically different. I loved how each character's journey intersected with the others, creating a compelling narrative web.
Don't listen to him. Everything this fucker says is a lie.
I used to be just like you. I thought nothing mattered except the mission. But then one day I understood. Very moving, Connor. But I'm not a deviant. I'm a machine designed to accomplish a task, and that's exactly what I am going to do.
Kenna Bridge of Spirits was a surprise hit for me. I went in expecting a cute and light-hearted adventure, but I was blown away by how challenging and heartfelt it was. The combat is tight and satisfying, and the world is absolutely stunning. It's like playing a Pixar movie. What stood out most for me were the emotional beats of the story. Kenna's journey to help spirits find peace is touching, and the game's linear progression ensures you're always moving forward, uncovering new and beautiful areas along the way. I'd recommend this to anyone who loves action adventures with a bit of heart. Sifu is one of the most intense action games I've played in a long time. The martial arts combat is brutal, fast-paced, and oh so satisfying. But what makes Sifu really unique is its aging mechanic. Every time you die, you get older, and while you become more powerful, you also get more fragile. I can't tell you how many times I thought I'll just give it one more shot, only to realize I'd spent hours perfecting my skills. The linear progression helps the game maintain a sense of urgency, and trust me, by the time you hit those final levels, you'll be fully invested in mastering every move.
She'll be around here. Target's here.
Spec Ops The Line isn't just another military shooter. It's an emotional gut punch that stays with you long after the credits roll. When I first picked it up, I was expecting your typical action-packed shooter. But this game dives deep into the horrors of war and the psychological toll it takes on soldiers. There's a moment later in the game, I won't spoil it, but it made me sit back and really think about the consequences of the decisions I'd made. The linear storytelling works perfectly here as it forces you down a harrowing path, one that makes you question not just your character's morality but your own. It's easily one of the most thought-provoking games I've ever played, and if you haven't experienced it, you're in for a wild ride.
Watch out! He's done! I think we're clear. Okay, let's keep moving. Where in the hell is that coming from?
It's these speakers. They're built from scratch, just like that beacon we found.
Next up we have Stray, and let me tell you, this game is an absolute gem. When I first heard about it, I was intrigued by the idea of playing as a stray cat in a dystopian city full of robots. But once I actually sat down to play, it completely blew me away. You're not just playing as any ordinary cat. This little feline is the heart and soul of the game. You explore this beautifully crafted world from the perspective of a curious, agile cat solving puzzles and uncovering secrets. What makes Stray truly special is how it combines this unique perspective with an emotionally driven story. There's a real sense of isolation and mystery as you roam through the desolate yet oddly serene streets of this futuristic city. As a cat, you can't communicate in the traditional sense. But the way the game builds connections between the characters is so well done, you almost don't need words. Alan Wake 2 is a game I've been waiting for what feels like forever, and it did not disappoint. The original Alan Wake was already a masterpiece of atmospheric horror, but this sequel builds on everything that made the first game great. As Alan, you're not just battling shadowy creatures but your own mind. The psychological horror is amped up to 11 and the story is as gripping as ever. What I loved most was the linear storytelling. It pulls you through a constantly escalating nightmare and there's no escape. Every chapter had me on the edge of my seat and I just couldn't stop playing until I reached the end. If you're into narrative-driven horror, this game is a must-play.
He's too fast.
I don't think I need to say much about The Last of Us Part 1. Everyone knows how iconic this game is. But the recent remake brought it back into the spotlight, and playing through Joel and Ellie's story again was an emotional experience all over. This game does linear storytelling better than almost any other game out there. The bond between Joel and Ellie grows in such a natural, believable way, and by the end I was left speechless at how far they'd come. Every encounter, whether with clickers or other survivors, feels meaningful, and the tight narrative pacing ensures that no moment feels wasted. It's one of those games that makes you think about what it means to survive and what you're willing to do for the people you love. Last but definitely not least, we have Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Nathan Drake's final adventure is everything I wanted and more. I've been with this character since the first game, and watching his story come to a close was bittersweet. The game's set pieces are nothing short of jaw-dropping. I still think about that insane car chase scene, but it's not just about the action. Uncharted 4 digs deeper into Nathan's personal life, his relationship with his brother Sam, and what it means to leave behind a life of adventure. It's a linear game in the best way possible. Every level is a new thrilling chapter that keeps you moving forward. Naughty Dog nailed it with this one, and if you love action adventures with a heart, this is a must-play.
Pas op, man. It's an old building over the edge. Hey, you ever done anything like this? Nah. Overthrown a couple of wicked villages. But this... something else. Yeah, something critical. Okay, Jen, stay sharp. Let's keep this jaw nice and tidy for the boss lady.
Just business.
So there you have it, 15 perfect linear games that everyone must play. Which of these games have you played? Which ones are on your list? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome gaming content. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.